Hi y'all, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to make a battery. This is what it's all been about, right? And this is the fourth battery, and I'm going to go through the whole process of turning this top balanced collection of cells into a working functional battery. And at the end I'm going to hit that reset button and the power is going to come on and it's all going to work like magic, right? Right. Okay, let's get started. First of all, I've gone ahead and I've taken the little jumpers off and put them on here because this battery is ready to start top balancing. And I've loosened these nuts, and I'm going to loosen this up and I'm going to flip every other battery cell. Remember, we put these labels on every other one upside down because now that we're putting them in series, we have to rotate every other one around. Now, before we loosen this, we want to make sure, I never want to loosen or tighten those nuts that establish the retention of these cells until all of the bus bar nuts are loose, because I don't want, if there's pressure in the cells, if there's tension, I don't want it to be imparted into the terminals when this restraint is loosened. So it's probably not going to cause a problem if I didn't do that, but I just want to play it safe. And so that's what I'm doing. Now, it's going to take a bit of time, but I have a couple of things I want to talk to you about while we're doing it. So let's build this battery. I love this part. I like the whole DIY thing to begin with. I don't think I've mentioned it, but my parents were older and they were teenagers during the Depression. And my father taught me that if you want something, you build it. And if you have something that's broken, you fix it. And so this just comes natural. What that's done for me my entire life is it's empowered me to understand the things I use and not be intimidated or hamstrung when something breaks or isn't working exactly right. Just adjust it, fix it, rebuild it. And so we get further and further in this modern world, we get further and further into the magic box of goodness that we don't understand. You look under the hood of a car and you find black boxes with wire harnesses going into them. You can't even tell how many wires are going into it. It's very difficult to work on. That's why it's so attractive to go back and work on those old cars and trucks from the 60s and 70s, because you could actually work on them. All right, so time to loosen this up. Now, I did not find a lot of pressure on this, even though this was, these cells are now fully charged. I did not find a lot of additional pressure on these nuts when I loosened them up. And I'm not going to take these all the way off, just going to loosen them up. And so I don't believe that a lot of pressure is created when these batteries are charged for top balancing. Even though I was putting 80 amps of energy into it, in parallel, that's not a high charge rate on these cells. You divide 80 by 16, you get 5 amps was going into each cell, and that's a very low charge rate. But at a full state of charge, it did not end up with a lot of expansion. We do want to retain them so that they can't slowly keep growing over time, a little at a time. Now I'm taking these out because I'm going to turn every other battery around, and it's a lot easier if I don't have that falling down on me. All right. Takes a little bit of finger strength to hold these, the weight of these by their terminal. These weigh about 11.5 pounds each. So if you don't have a lot of finger strength, don't take a risk of dropping these cells. But I'm able to just turn these around and lower them back down in just by grasping the terminals themselves with my finger strength. So I'm going to turn every other cell around, put the insulators back in between them, and we're going to turn this into a battery. All right, so one thing I want to talk to you about is there are a lot of options out there for batteries that you can buy ready-made. And more, we get more and more options over time of these ready-made batteries where you can just buy a battery and stick it in, and the pricing on them is getting more and more reasonable. I think a lot of the DIY battery movement has been created by a desire to save money, and that's admirable. But there are, for me, greater reasons than that, because the little snug, because let's say we buy a Tesla Powerwall. A lot of people I know have done that, and they get about 13 kilowatt hours in their Tesla Powerwall, and their Tesla Powerwall is monitored by Tesla, and you have to have it connected to the internet at all times, and I would rather not. A lot of reasons to not want that to not want my power system to be monitored by outside entities. But more than that, if that Tesla Powerwall has a problem with one of the cells, and I don't like its chemistry actually, it's a different chemistry than this lithium iron phosphate, but if it does have a problem, that's not something that you or I are going to fix. Oh, you might take it apart and try to figure out what's wrong with the cell, but it has a warranty in that. There's a lot of concern about voiding a warranty. And I would much rather be responsible for the batteries that are supplying power to go back down to just a hair over 1 Newton meter. The batteries that are supplying power to my home, I want to be responsible for those. And when there's a problem with one of these, I can test the cells and I can find out what's wrong with which cell is bad. I can replace it. If there's a problem with this BMS, I can have an extra on the shelf waiting to swap out. And that just suits me a whole lot better. So there is also the cost. The Tesla Powerwall is going to run you what? My friend had 4 of them installed. Right there. Installed. They were $12,500 each and gave him 13.2 kilowatt hours each, 13.5. It depends, but we just round down to 13. Just like on this pack, we're going to round down to 14 when we talk about it. And putting only a hair over 1 Newton meter. It's just barely anything. And so with these battery packs, I'm paying in materials, all the materials for this fancy box and the fuses and connectors and cabling and the BMS and the cells. I have about just want to feel that 1 Newton meter. Get that just right. There's not an audible click because it's such a light setting. It's just a little bit of movement. And I have a total in costs on this thing, including paying someone to spray the lacquer and the hinges and all of that. I have I believe it's $2,800 in materials, and then that ends up being about $200 per kilowatt hour. The battery cells themselves, well, not these. These were cheaper. I got these cheaper, but the latest batch I've gotten, which is a better grade of battery cell, cost me $2,000 per 16 cells delivered with taxes and delivered to my door. And then the BMS is $225, and then the plywood is very expensive. The fuse is, they've gone up in price now. They're around $50 each. Anderson connectors, another 20. Lacquer, the dolly, the stainless steel hinges. You add it all up, it's about $200 per kilowatt hour. 14 kilowatt hours for about, okay, I'm looking it over one last time before I start putting it together. Everything's lined up. All right, got all the numbers that tell me I've got the cells in order. I've got every other one as positive and a negative. Everything is right there. It's time to assemble. Now, as I start to assemble this, we are about to turn a 3.5 volt collection of cells. And I know I do this a lot. I'm going to get distracted. I'm going to go ahead and tell you something. When I top balanced this, it finished top balancing last night, and then I let it rest, and it's been resting for 13 hours or so, 14 hours, something. Yeah, about 14 hours it's been resting. And so just before I started the video, I tested all these cells. And every cell tested 3.5271. 271 on, oh, and then 3.5270. And then, oh, 3.2569. Oh, I started to realize it's still dropping in voltage. And sure enough, came back to the first one, which was 3.5271, and it's now 3.5269. So they are all the same, and they are all continuing to drop in voltage as they settle. All right. Now, I'm putting this together now into a series battery. And as I do that, suddenly, I'm going to start dealing with a 54 volt collection of energy instead of a bunch of 3.5 volt cells. So I'm going to protect my eyes in case I make a mistake. And the commenters yesterday told me that I should be careful and wear goggles, and he was commenting on the top balancing video, and I don't typically worry about that when I'm dealing with 3.2 volt cells. However, I realized that when there's my special little jumper made out of 1-aught. Oh, it's going to be a good day. All right. I realized that it would be easy enough for me to get distracted and forget that I'm working on a 48 volt battery when I'm working on one, and just be acting as if it's a 3.5 volt collection of 3.5 volt cells. And so I think I need to start wearing the glasses when I'm working on top balanced cells too. If I short across there, it would be a lot of energy, but it would not be a big explosion. It would be a small arc, and it could weld to it, but it wouldn't blow stuff in my face. However, this is another matter altogether. All right, so in a minute, I'm gonna put my gloves on, and then things are gonna get much more difficult. Because as soon as I do that, I'm gonna start handling these little wires, and that is some tedious stuff. So, back to the DIY. These batteries, they take a lot of work. I told you it's about $2,800 for each one, plus my labor. And my labor is substantial. There's a lot of hours involved. But I gotta be doing something. I could be sitting on the couch watching television, but instead, I'm in my office gaining energy independence. And that is worth a lot. Now, in my first video that I did on this channel, the introduction video, the welcome video, welcome to my solar storage project. I talked about the electric utility cooperative that supplies power to my house. And you know, we're in Texas. We went through big power outages in February along with everyone else, and we were without power for 5 days. But the electric utility cooperative here is not very, they are not very friendly when it comes to solar. And they have recently been looking at ways to try to get people that have solar to pay more. They definitely are not doing anything to encourage people to get solar, but they are also working in ways that are discouraging to people getting solar. And the latest thing that came out yesterday is they want to, all right, here we are. Now, I have a 55 volt battery here now, 56 volt battery here in front of me. So I'm going to put on some gloves and I'm going to tighten these nuts down. The latest thing that they've come out with is they're going away from net metering. Okay, now I'm going to turn this up to 4 Newton meters. And remember, I'm going to tighten it to 5 Newton meters. Actually, I'm going to go to 5 Newton meters. And then I'm going to go to a little more than 5 Newton meters when I get ready to do the final, because remember, these are brass bus bars. And they're going to all get changed out for copper bus bars. Apparently, they're on an airplane now between here and China, because the original seller of these original cells basically ripped me off and sent me brass bus bars, which are completely unacceptable. So the electric utility is going away from net metering. And what they've decided to do, up until now, well, when I first got my solar, they would take the amount that you produced and the amount that you used, and if you produced more in a month than you used in a month, they would pay you at the same rate that they charged you. And a few years ago, they went away from that. And they decided to just pay you the rate that they pay the provider, which is about half of what they charge. So something like, we'll just talk round numbers, 5 cents and 10 cents. And what they've decided to do now is much worse. Now, everything that they see on their side of the meter that's a consumption, they're going to charge you for. And everything they see on their side of the meter that's a production, they're going to pay you for. But that means that if during the month you're net zero, you will no longer be net zero, because they're going to charge you at 10 cents a kilowatt hour for every kilowatt hour that you use at night. And yeah, they'll pay you for your overproduction during the daytime at 5 cents, but at the end of the month, you're going to end up with a $40, $50 a month electric bill that you didn't have before, because they've changed the way that they're doing the deal. And they keep changing the rules after people invest. Well, I gave up on them When this project started, it was because I've given up on them. And I've also given up on trusting the electric grid at all. I think that the electric grid may last, but I also think that it could fail. And after 5 days without power in February, that's pretty good evidence that that's a possibility. All right. Now, it's time to run the BMS sensing wires. Wrong direction, Ray. Wrong direction. All right. And this one will come over here and it will plug into here. And we'll go ahead and do that just to help hold it. And then this set of wires is going to come down this way. And this set of wires is going to come down this way. Now, for a little tedious part, I'm going to go ahead and start with 7 plus. It's the farthest one away. And what you don't want to do is drop this screw down there. And since it's stainless, it's probably not going to be very good trying to get it out of there with a magnet either. So, focus. The easiest way to do this is to go ahead and put it on the tip of the screwdriver. So, the reason I'm doing this DIY is multifaceted, but mostly it comes down to control. I want control over all the things in my life that are critically important to our survival. And just trusting the electric utility that obviously doesn't have your interest at heart anyway, and has proven to be quite negligent, just trusting them with your future is not the best. Okay, 5 plus, that is 5 plus. And here's 4 plus, so that's the next one. And I don't know that it's a whole lot better to trust your batteries, your battery construction to other people. Now, I'm not going to solder my own PCBs, and I'm not going to build my own circuit boards, but I am going to have extras. And when it comes to the batteries, those are the workhorse. And I want to be able to test them, work on them, maintain them. I have made a mistake. I certainly have. This one goes here. And this one goes there. And it was easy for me to see that because of the labels that I created. It helps me to keep this organized in my head. And I'm certain that it would be a little bit different if I was just doing this and not also doing a video, but my mind wanders anyway. It's always good to set up systems that help keep you from making mistakes. Yesterday, out there on the solar shed, I was able to get the had a little bit of buttoning up to do on some minor details on the roof and sealing around there are some pipes that are part of the structure for my solar array that actually extend through the overhanging roof at the high end, and I got all those sealed in, and I went ahead and got started on the siding. And part of the siding that I'm using is, if you saw that solar shed video, is some vinyl siding, and I went ahead and got started with that, and I got a few pieces up. It's been a long time, friends, since I've installed vinyl siding. 35 years since the last time I installed vinyl siding. But I had forgotten how important it is to install it loosely. So I actually am going to get to go back and take a few pieces down and loosen the mounting screws, because that stuff just has to hang. All right, I'm going to temporarily, put this on here just so that I can test and make sure that I got the wires correct. And that's important to do. All right, and now, this is the next one. That is 8 plus. It's a heartache that I have had to do all this drilling and tapping on these bus bars and then figured out that they were brass. That was just silly. I should have recognized that early on. Woo. Didn't go down into the abyss. That's good. These gloves are definitely not the easiest part of this. All right. Now, this is 9 plus. And there's 9 plus. I've really been enjoying the comments that people have made on the videos. It's good to have dialogue and share ideas. It's a good community that we form when we come together to learn how to do these things. And I've really been enjoying that aspect of this. It's There's a lot of disagreement about how things should be done, but for the most part, people are able to disagree without being disagreeable, and that's a sign that good people are involved, you know? I think that I find that mostly that people are very good. There's a lot of people out there that are working real hard to help others and do the right thing, and I guess that's what makes it all work. So I really do entertain the comments that people make on these videos and trying to help me and help others and share things that they've learned in their process of doing this. All right. The next one is 12 plus, and here it is. Now, Seplos does these 4 different colors, and it helps that they're not all the same color because they run in a series. Every wire is a different color than the one next to it, and then every 4 wires it repeats, but it's basically white, yellow, orange, red, white, yellow, orange, red, white, yellow, orange, red, and that helps keep us straight, because now I know that the next one's going to be white. And sure enough, 13 is white and goes here. And that might not be too helpful if you were doing 1, but when you're doing 16, it's helpful because your brain eventually learns those little patterns, and it just makes it easy. So that I appreciate that Seplos makes the effort to use these different colored wires. We're almost done here, and it's going to be time for testing, and it's going to be real soon that we're going to fire this up and find out if everybody has done their job. Did Seplos build a good BMS? Did Ray build a good battery? I've tested them all, so I know that the cells themselves are right. And this is going to be a little bit better battery than the last one, because every battery is built with better cells than the one before. I started the first battery with the worst tested cells, and the last battery will be with the best tested cells. All right, last one. Is this the one where I'm supposed to screw up because I'm almost made it? No, looks like I'm going to be okay. All right, I didn't drop anything. All right. Actually, I think I want to rotate that around a little bit. I think I want that to sit like that. Yep. That way it'll be like all the others. And I'll go ahead and attach it, because now I need to test and make sure that I got this right. And I know I did, but we're going to test anyway, because one thing that you can find is if you didn't get a good crimp, or sometimes when you put this is important, when you put this wire in to make the crimp, I have found that it's possible to push it too far and you end up crimping on the insulation and you don't get a reading. So that's another really good reason to do this testing. to set this on DC. And now we're going to take this harness and we're going to put the negative terminal on this black wire, and we're going to walk through all the way down, and we're going to see what we have. I'm not getting a good connection. Let's see here. That's millivolts. That's still not a connection. All right, something's wrong. So, if I come over here, I have 3.31. But if I put it here, I do not. And that tells me that I have a bad connection on that terminal right there. Go to the next one. The next one I have 7 volts. It is correct. The next one I have 10.5. The next one I have 14. The next one I have 17.5. The next two after that are temperature sensors. Then you go to the next one. So there's 17.5, 21, 24.5, 28. So far, that's the only one that we have a problem with. Now I continue to hold on this negative terminal and I come to this next one. If you would just hold that with your hand, just hold that right there. And now I have 31.5, 35, 38.5, 42, skip 2 temperature sensors, 45.5, 49, 52.5, and 56. So everything works except for that first wire. Let's test that one more time here. Make sure we have a problem. And yes, we do. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to redo this connection. And I'm going to be able to probably show you what's wrong with it. And this is one of the reasons that we test. Yes, look. That is the end of the wire poking through too far. I pushed that wire too far through, and then when I crimped, I didn't actually crimp on the wire. Now I wonder if I can fix that by simply crimping further down. Let's see if that will work. It's possible. If not, I'm going to cut it off and replace it. And be grateful that I test. Oh, these gloves are so amazing. I just love them. They could be worse. And I could use thinner nitrile gloves, but they tear. And I'm working on you know, sharp edges, and so I use these Gorilla Grip gloves. All right, let's check it one more time and see if that was our problem and if that fixes it. There's the negative. There's the positive. Oh, 3.5 volts. We are fixed. All right. Now, I'm not going to do anything with these temperature sensors for now except just drop them down there. And I'm going to take this off just to make it a little bit easier for me to plug in. And remember, it just holds on with this one little pin tack. It just doesn't take much. And I'm going to hook the white one up down at the bottom first. That one's in. Now, if you don't test and you do get these sensing wires mixed up and on the wrong terminal, you will destroy your BMS and it will not be covered under warranty. I need to see just a little bit better. Okay, I'm in. And the last one is this one here. We're in. Now, put my goggles back on. Last two terminals to connect. All right. This is the exciting time. Be very careful, y'all. Take your precautions, but this really is the exciting time. With any luck, we're going to just fire it up. We're going to find out together if it worked. So far they all have. This is number 4. Yeah, like right there, what I did just then, if I'd been using those thin nitrile gloves, it would have just cut through. What we have here now is no longer a collection of cells. It is now a battery. It is no longer a bunch of boxes of dirt. It is now, what this now represents is energy independence. All right, I'm gonna put this back on. And I'm gonna push this button and find out if I screwed it up. Oh, look at that is firing up. Oh, that green light says it's working. Oh my God. Oh my God, it's a 56 volt pack. Oh Lord, let's look some more. Oh, this is just so exciting to me. I just love it. Cell voltages look very, very similar. Very, very close. Got a 3515 and a 3524. And that's way up at the top. And they're settling down at slightly different rates because these aren't the greatest cells. But saved a lot of money on them. Tested them and got them grouped together pretty well. And now I have a working battery full of energy. Okay, next we're gonna take this magical thing, hang it on here. I use this for charging it back up, and I've got some insulators on there, but I'm going to stick it up under here. Now, I'm going to plug it in. Hot diggity. And I'm going to go ahead and clear. .55 is how many kilowatt hours I put back into the last battery that this was hooked up to. Now I'm going to clear the amp hours off of it. And now I'm going to clear the running time off of it. And now it's ready to go. Okay, so the next thing I do, this is ready to top balance. So, I'm going to take this power, and I'm going to plug it in over here, and I'm going to turn this on. And we're going to power some things up. And we're going to start top balancing this next battery because we're moving along. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh. Gloves. That's funny. All right. Oh, that's much better. Now, I'm going to reconnect. It says PC. Good deal. It says 40 amps, 3.65 volts. Let's go ahead and hook it up and start top balancing this next battery. We'll put it here on this negative terminal. We'll put, let's give it a little room because I'm going to hook something else up there. Let's put this one here, and that'll force that energy to go all through all those cells and all that battery. And let's go ahead and start. There we go. And let's take this one, and it says 3.65 volts at 18 amps. And I'll take my wrench. Where do we want to put it? I think we'll put it here. Woo! Battery number 4 is working good. No problems. I love it. It's just keep doing everything as well as you can. Learn everything you can about this stuff. And then even with cheap cells that you get ripped off on, you can still put something together that's going to give you energy independence. Goodbye, grid. And no, not hello, Mr. Musk. I do not want your power wall. I want to build my own power wall. Okay, power floor. And I love the way these roll around. I have 3 of them I rolled in there. I'm gonna take this one pretty soon and roll it in there. I have a whole line of them in line. Here we go. There we go. I have a whole row of them in line that are being used to that are waiting to be used in this solar shed. And every couple of days there'll be another one. It takes about 2 days to capacity test and top balance the next one, and it all happens at the same time. And then that right there, that box is the next one. So as soon as I get finished here, I'm going to go look at my spreadsheet and I'm going to find the next 16 cells and start populating that one. I'm going to put the BMS and the display and the Class T fuse, and the Anderson connector, the rods and the retention plate, and get it all ready to be the next one. And I gotta say, y'all, I really appreciate y'all sticking with me. If you're still watching on this video, it is exciting to me because it means probably a couple of things. But the most important is it means that you plan or are doing this yourself. And as many of us as we can get to do this, the better. The more, the better. There we go. 18.74 amps going into that one. And the last one is here. And I think I'll put it, let's separate these wires. I think I want to put this one, no, I'll put it here. I did that for nothing. And there. All right. Well, that's only putting 3.2 amps in, so let me find a different place to put that. So I want to put it someplace where the battery wants it. So let's try here and see what happens. I don't think it's going to be any better here, but let's try. 2.9. 3.3, that's going up. Okay, so we got 3.3 there, 18.7 there, 12.3 there, 7.9 here, and 40 over there. So we're putting 80 amps into this battery. 36 hours from now, let's get this off. 36 hours from now, we should be there. All right. Thank you so much. This was a long video. If you stayed with me, thank you. If you stayed with me, I definitely deserve a like on this one. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. And turn those notifications on so you see the next one. I'm going to add this to the playlist that goes with wiring up these batteries. And I need to look at the camera, but it's so exciting. I just got to look at it. Thank y'all.